Why, hello there. I'm back, and I have something to share with you. The events of the day. What else? I don't really share much else on this channel other than that. So let's get right down to business. I woke up at around 8 o'clock. I got up, and first inclination was to grab my phone and search this YouTube video. It was Russian dancers in sailor suits. Russian male dancers in sailor suits on a operatic stage doing the most insane dances you have ever seen in your life. This YouTube video had 34 million views. It was absolutely incredible seeing these guys become so improvisational, I think is how you pronounce it. I was blown away by it, and I would watch it again. That's how entertained I was. Well, it was time to get dressed. Before I did such addressing matters, I made some coffee. I got 2 cookies from grocery store outlet that we had purchased the cookies from. They were the ones made with hydrogenated oil. And I watched a new Red Letter Media video about this film called Possession. This was a very intense looking movie. It was very scary looking and very freaky looking. It's not the kind of thing that I seek out, but the way that the director made the film look, and it had such a visceral, guttural look and feel to it, definitely made me intrigued, to say the least. And the subject matter is basically about this breakup that is so severe and so dramatic that it goes beyond insane and into absolutely terrifying. Check it out. I didn't finish this review of this 1970s movie, by the way. I only got a few minutes in before it was time to get dressed and go to work. And as I was getting dressed, my mom made banana pancakes and served them to me in the last 6 minutes before driving to work. I ate them. They were pretty good. A little on the thick side, though. I would have preferred them to be a bit puffier, but that's just me. So I drove to work, and when I got there, I don't know why, but I just had this giddy feeling in me. I think it was just something about those Russian dancers just made me so excited. And also the intense footage from the Possession movie that I watched also sparked these feelings of theatrics inside of me that is hard to really explain, but it kind of made me want to be more theatrical in the way that I presented myself at work. I would say hi to customers. I'd ask them how are they doing. I'd ask them any plans later today. Things like that. It was, but in a way where it was very, I wouldn't say intense, but very openly friendly, at least from my perspective. I needed to push carts after my first hour and on to my second. But around half-hour mark of pushing carts, I needed to go numero dos. And when I got back, the carts were completely taken over. Sunday is one of our busiest days. And one of my coworkers helped me clear the lot, but as a means of, I guess, showing that, well, I mean, I enjoy doing the lot anyways, and I enjoy taking over people's lot, but no one came out after my hour was up, which was strange because I would have liked to have gone on my break. But later in the day, one of the CSRs did say that it was because I didn't properly clear the lot that they gave me an hour of extra carts. So I guess it was like a form of punishment, but I guess I didn't do a good job communicating that I went number 2 and took me a bit longer than anticipated. And when I finally got out, it was a car frenzy outside. So a little bit of misunderstanding, little drama. I mean, I didn't let it get to me, or I didn't have any crazy outbursts or anything like that. I just thought it was a little strange. But yeah, after the second hour, spent the next hour bagging and being very friendly to the customers. After this, I drove back home for lunch. And what did I have for lunch exactly? Well, a bacon, lettuce, and pickle sandwich. A BLP with potato chips. And a bubbly soda, room temperature, because we didn't have any bubblies in the refrigerator at the time. I did pour some of it into a glass of ice, but ultimately it fizzled out and lost its fuzz in the glass of ice, so I just drank it straight from the can, because at least it's retained its bubbliness. At the house, my mom wanted to show me this very interesting discovery that was made on the pyramids, where there are apparently like these structures that go underneath the pyramids 2 kilometers down, or something like, from what I remember, I think as large as 2 Eiffel Towers going down into the ground underneath the pyramids, which sounds crazy to me. Like, why would you need, for something that's already a massive, heavy, stone like structure that would stand up to so much integrity over thousands of years, like the pyramids? Why would you need something like a foundation of these rods underneath that go down thousands of feet subterranean like? That is very strange to me. I don't really know what the purpose of that is, but it really quite an interesting discovery. It makes you wonder if there was such a particular design to the way the pyramids were made, then why would Egyptians go through all the trouble of putting scaffolding thousands of feet beneath the surface as a means of burial for their Egyptian pharaohs and queens? It's honestly absurd to think that would be the case. And so a lot of people believe that this is proof that the pyramids are actually a lot more older than we originally anticipated, and perhaps they existed before the Egyptians arrived in that location and took the pyramids as their own without truly understanding the reason of their existence. But they decided to use it for burial ceremonies because they didn't really know what else to use it for. But personally, me, honestly, that's a pickle. I really don't know how to explain that. Like, these giant metal pillars or whatever they're made of, we don't know what they're made of right now, but these pillars that go off thousands of feet underneath the ground, why would you need to build that? It's crazy. I sure hope we find out more, because that's something I feel that's very important to the history of humanity. It's going to require us to rewrite all of our textbooks. Insane. Well, after that mind-shattering discovery, it was time to go back to work. But not before watching a lady make commentary on the whole thing while eating another cookie and a cup of coffee. And then I drove back to work. On my way forward home from work for lunch, I listened to the Oliver and Company song, The Best Survive, as well as the Rainbow Connection with Kermit the Frog. But it was like a new rendition where it was a bunch of people in an opera house singing it together, which was very cute and heartwarming. And then on my way, I didn't get to finish that rendition of the Rainbow Connection, so I thought I might as well finish it on my ride back to work. Well, I arrived at work, and the last 4 hours were fairly mundane. I do remember promising that I was going to make another animated short for my next update video when I got home. But as you can see with this video's existence, that did not happen. My reason for it not happening pretty much has to do with the fact that me, my mom, and our family friend watched a new, well, not a new, but a new to us episode of Severance, the Apple TV Plus show. And by the time we were done watching it, I was so mentally exhausted and ready to go to bed that I decided when I recorded this video, no animation video tonight, maybe tomorrow night if there's something interesting to talk about, but not tonight. But yeah, I just remember suggesting I was going to make, or promising I was going to make an animated little short when I got home, and that I would ultimately have like a bunch of interesting characters in it, like my manager and the customers. And I even pointed to one of the customers where I said, "You could be in it." And they thought that was very funny. Yeah, pretty funny when I'm looking back on it. Well, I helped out this older gentleman whose car, he didn't ask for bags, but then when we got to his vehicle, he said he wanted his Kleenex boxes bagged, even though he didn't make it obvious that he wanted bags, or he didn't say he wanted bags when he was at the cash register. So either he was messing with me and the cashier, or maybe he was getting senile. Who could say? I don't want to be mean. But luckily he did have some plastic bags that were in his car. And so I was gladly accepting to bag the Kleenex boxes he bought into the bags, as well as any other potential items that could be put in the 3 bags he just so happened to have in his car. And I made a big, good little showing of it by saying, well, even though you didn't get that bag you wanted in the store, it is very good that you didn't do that because it means that we could use the bags you already have, so you won't get stockpiled with them. And he agreed, so that was cool. Well, after that, yeah, it was wiping check stands. Lots of wiping. Whole lot of wiping today. And then it was time for a break. And when I got to the break room, I did some intense breathing sessions as a means of clearing my mind. One of the techniques I found was you let out all, you breathe in, you breathe out, breathe in again. And as you're holding that breath in, you apparently have to squeeze your hand muscles and your buttocks and you have to look up at your forehead with your eyes closed while you're doing that breathing out session. And apparently that's supposed to allow you a deep relaxation. So I tried that and I think it worked okay. Although I did get a mild headache and I did feel a little nauseous afterwards, so maybe it didn't work okay. Probably the last time I'm doing that, but well, I think that might be it. Is there anything else to really talk about? No, I mean, yeah, I can't think of anything, honestly. Drove home, watched reviews of the new Snow White movie that just released, and apparently it's not very good. A lot of people have a lot of issues with it. They say it takes what made the original special, rips it out, tries to replace it with more, in the filmmaker's view, progressive ideologies, but apparently the movie just was not well executed or felt disingenuous, and so ultimately it left a lot of people tipped off or not even willing to see it. So that's sad. It got me thinking, yeah, I remember what else I was going to share, but I'll share it after this. It got me thinking, I wonder what that Lilo and Stitch movie is going to be. So I was curious to look into that. I saw a trailer for that, and I got to be honest, I thought it was actually pretty alright. I mean, I don't really want to support these live action remakes, so I'm not going to see it. I would much rather support original ideas or just fresh, takes on old stories that aren't like corporately demanded. But based on what I saw in that trailer, it did seem like the people who worked on it were very respectful of what made Lilo and Stitch something that people liked. So in that regard, it did seem a lot better than the Snow White remake. Another thing that was cool was that they got the original voice of Stitch, who was just so happened to be the writer and director of the original movie, Chris Sanders, to come in to play the character, which makes a lot of sense because you can't really have Stitch without the voice of Stitch. And I'd like to think that maybe Chris Sanders did have some pointers or some suggestions while he was recording for the character. And because another reason why I say that is because the director of the movie, I looked into it. The only film he's directed is a film called Marcel with Shoes On, which is about a anthropomorphic shell that talks. But I mean, apparently that movie got rave reviews when it came out. And this guy was given a whole lot of money and Disney telling him to make a live action Lilo and Stitch. And the thing is, I have more faith that this movie might actually be okay because it has an animator at the helm directing it, which is good. Because you don't get someone who doesn't care about animation making an animated film. One example that I can think of is Jon Favreau in the Lion King remake, where the guy really has only done like special effects heavy driven movies before that, or action stuff. And so him taking on what was a fully animated film and turning that into a live action piece didn't really make sense to me at all because he didn't really experience or have that wide-eyed wonderment that so many younger people had when they saw that movie when it was released. I got the vibe that he just kind of saw it as a dumb cartoon and now he's being told to make it into this overly inflated realistically animated movie. And, you just get the sense like he didn't really care. And same thing with that Snow White thing. They got Mark Webb. That guy's only done live action movies. Clearly, someone who's only had experience in live action working on a project with an animation background, I mean, they might care about animation, but based on their track record, they probably care more about like dramas or more humanistic stories or things that, well, I guess animation can be humanistic, but basically just stuff more grounded. And the thing is, if you don't have an animation background, it's going to be really annoying to watch as a fan of animation, something that was clearly not made with a lot of love or soul in it. And that's the vibe that I get just from watching the trailer to something like a Snow White and then these reviews. I mean, I know people say, go watch it yourself, make up your own mind. And, I agree. Yeah, it's more important to make up your own mind than watch what some random strangers on the internet have to say about something. But sometimes you can just kind of already know what you're getting into based on, context clues and things like that. And yeah, but anyways, all that to say, when I saw that who was working on it and that it was a guy who had an animation background, he probably had big respect for the original Lilo and Stitch. And I think you could totally tell because when I was watching the trailer to Lilo and Stitch live action one, it definitely felt like, these characters, they look similar to the animated counterparts. Even, well, they're still animated. They're just CGI realistic animated now instead of 2D character animation. And I mean, it's kind of neat to see that it feels like the people working on it. I looked at the writers. The writers really haven't really done anything. Like I think this is most of the people working on this movie's first script or second script. And the last thing they did was some indie like horror movie or something. But based on everyone being involved, like the director being animation background and the writers being relatively newcomers, and the original director is involved in some capacity, at least voicing Stitch, I could see this being a serviceable live action retelling of the story. That's pretty much all I'm really saying. I mean, I'm still not going to watch it because I don't want to support any more of these soulless remakes, but at the very least, it looks like it respects the original, is all I'm going to say. Okay, I'm moving on now. I'm getting boring. But yeah, there was that one thing I wanted to say, and that was I do takeout deliveries for customers at the store I work at. And one of the customers, we were talking about the show Severance, which feeds into what we are doing at the end of the day, me, my mom, and our friend. And we were talking about, I wonder what would be legal ramifications. Like if you did something that was seen as bad, would the lawyer blame your innie or your outie? That would be an interesting courtroom drama. I'd probably want to see that. Maybe they explore that in the show. But yeah, that's all I wanted to share. When I arrived home after watching those videos in my car on my phone, my mom was exploring more of the whole pyramid thing. So she made fresh lentils. I got those lentils in a bowl with some cheese sprinkled on top. Our family friend had some Mexican chip-like snacks that I ate, and those were really good. I ate those up, dipped them into the lentils and cheese. Very tasty. And I even had a Coke Zero, which our family friend got from work. She's not a fan of Coke Zeros, but I am, so I happily drank that. It went really well with the lentils, cheese, and snack. And yeah, we were just doing some deep dive research, and then we watched Severance, the episode 4 of season 1. That's interesting seeing this story unfold. These characters' lives become more conflicted of this whole concept of splitting yourself into a work version and a normal version, and just the ramifications of that, and how some people feel very strongly about how they think it's really bad and sucks, and the people who work in that environment are very conditioned to think it's okay. So I just think it's pretty interesting. Yeah. And yeah, that cliffhanger is quite a scare, not gonna lie. You'll know it when you see it. Yeah, after that, I'm recording this update video. And that's pretty much all there is to say. Thanks for watching. Have yourself a great night.